So Atome, we are the first company listed on the London Stock Exchange, exclusively focused on the production of green hydrogen and green ammonia. So whilst you have a number of companies who are looking at the technical side and the technology side of hydrogen, we are really looking at the production side of the molecule and providing on a fast-track basis hydrogen and green ammonia to the markets. From a, let's say, investor point of view, we are still the only company listed in the UK which give investors access to the production side of hydrogen. What differentiates us is because we are a relatively small company who has roots from very large companies, so we know how to deliver very large projects with the flexibility and the agility that is needed to develop very quickly projects. At the time of the IPO, it was about 250 megawatt of projects. Now we are beyond 400 megawatt in Paraguay alone. So we still want to stay completely reasonable in the size of our projects so we can deliver them faster. But the scale of our projects is getting bigger. So what really differentiates us is the agility, being a small company that enables us to react faster. And most importantly, we have identified places in the world where you have access to the cheapest form of existing power. So from an investment point of view, we only need to worry about a very small amount of a capital expenditure because we only need to do the electrolyzer and the ammonia loops and then deliver the molecules to the market and without having to worry about building a power plant, building transmission line, building a port. So speed essentially is what sets us apart from all of the other industrial players in the hydrogen market. So when we were putting the business plan of Atome together and how to accelerate projects in hydrogen and ammonia, it's all about the price of electricity and the availability of electricity. Paraguay is today the world's largest exporter of renewable energy, thanks to the Itaipu Dam. It's also one of the world's cheapest form of energy. So if we want to produce cheap hydrogen very quickly, it is the place to be. It's also a place where there is a market, because it is a market which has to import over $1 billion of fertilizer every single year. So why? Why? It's because there is the cheap power and there's a large amount of demand. So how are the projects doing? Well, we started during the IPO where we had identified about 250 megawatt of projects. We are now at 400 megawatt in development of projects. So in just under 9 months, we're doing pretty well. So Iceland, a little bit like Paraguay, it's also a place where you had a lot of excess electricity and renewable electricity from geothermal energy especially. Where we had identified is with a collaboration with a green fuel team on the ground was the sources of power and also the demand side being in the first phase exporting hydrogen in ammonia form to Europe, which is very much of a premium market at the time of the IPO, but especially today with what's going on in Ukraine. And the second stage will be once ammonia is being used more widely as a fuel for shipping, as Iceland is trying to essentially decarbonize its shipping industry. Where we are still in the negotiation stages of a power purchase agreement, and once this is negotiated, we will enter into the FEED stages, but we are still at the negotiation stage on the power side. The demand has materialized a lot faster than what we had put in our own projections. If I remember, when we were putting the business case together, you were looking at oil in the $70 to $80. You had natural gas around $2 to $3. Now these numbers are completely out of the window, and ammonia now has, at one point, it was over $1,600 a ton. We are competitive way below $500 a ton, and we had predicated our IPO at around $500 a ton. So it only accelerated our drive to continue to move faster and put our projects on the map to take advantage of the increasing disconnect that we have, where the access to fertilizer and to energy is not going to get easier over time. And we are working on projects which are 10, 20-year type of projects for production side. So if you don't start now, if you start two years later, it's going to be too late for the market you're trying to hit. we are looking at a pipeline of projects. There are more opportunities in Paraguay. I mean, it's a country which exports over 3-4 gigawatt of power every single day, so there is definitely potential there. We are also looking at markets which have the same similarities, which is access to power, or where you can build power relatively cheaply, and also a domestic demand on the fertilizer side and the hydrogen side, and close to some of the export markets. So there are a number of places around. I mean, you may have seen COP27 will be in Egypt this year. I've worked a number of times in my career in Egypt, and it's one of these places which is very interesting. You have a very large western desert, which will give ample access to solar. You have a very large industrial complex, and it's on the Mediterranean, which allows you to export hydrogen into the European market. So it's one of those areas which we are pursuing actively, including other geographies. So hopefully, over the next few months, we'll be able to make some announcements. But today, clearly, we have to deliver Paraguay. Since the IPO in December, we've achieved quite a lot already. We've signed a 60 megawatt PPA in Villeta, which wasn't part of the original plan. We've invested onto a Atome Mobility, which is a 1 megawatt electrolyzer with CPH2 to develop heavy goods transport in Paraguay. We have appointed AECOM as our owner's engineer to start the pre-FEED process. So the next steps in the autumn will be about the announcement on the selection of a front-end engineering and design, on the selection on the land site, on the selection on the technology, of the off-taker, of a financial advisor, which will get us into final investment decision by the end of the year, just for the Villeta project alone. And we certainly hope to be able to make some announcements on other power purchase agreements before the end of the year.